for healing across 7 essential dimensions: physical vitality, emotional balance, mental clarity, financial freedom, social connection, sexual wellness, and intellectual growth. This is more than self-help. It's self-elevation. Watch Elevation Nation with Tasha Young, exclusively on Black Westchester Magazine, the news from the Black point of view. Your journey to wholeness starts now.
Cause we are ambassador in this business. Little lion tongue, no local. We international and universal. I'll tell you this, don't call we no local sound this. Little lion, Lord of the country, blaze up the chalice. Come make we rally in the name of cannabis. Rinse the holy herb, ancient practice. Never label marijuana with your blackness. Little lion song, I burn Babylon. Cause say it's okay for man to move underhand. Every day and ridicule the good ganja man. No wonder why the crime rate is responding. And you know what? Tell them, little lion.
Are you ready to transform your life from the inside out? Join Tasha Young on Elevation Nation, your guide to total wellness and personal evolution. You are about to discover powerful strategies for healing across 7 essential dimensions: physical vitality, emotional balance, mental clarity, financial freedom, social connection, sexual wellness, and intellectual growth. This is more than self-help. It's self-elevation. Watch Elevation Nation with Tasha Young, exclusively on Black Westchester Magazine, the news from the Black point of view. Your journey to wholeness starts now.
I belong to a political caucus, and in our bylaws and traditions, we hold in our cabinet our immediate past president. So when a new president is in, the immediate past president is there to kind of share information, resources, things like that. So since we have a new president and Donald Trump, I do want to talk about our former president, the outgoing president, Joe Biden, and his legacy, especially as it pertains to these clemency and pardons. So President Joe Biden has been a vocal advocate for ending mandatory minimum sentences for nonviolent offenses. During his presidency, he commuted the sentences of nearly 2,500 individuals convicted of nonviolent drug offenses. He pardoned 2,500 people in one day, 1,500 people before then. So this 2,500 is within that combination of numbers for nonviolent drug offenses, addressing disparities in outdated drug laws, such as those between crack and powder cocaine sentencing. Biden has expressed regret for supporting the 1994 crime bill, which contributed to mass incarceration under Bill Clinton, and pledged to reform sentencing laws. While he supports repealing mandatory minimums at the federal level, legislative progress on this promise has stalled. His actions reflect efforts to rectify systemic inequities
as outdated
in the
sentencing
justice
enhancements for drug crimes. This action is an important step toward righting historic wrongs, correcting sentencing disparities, and providing deserving individuals the opportunity to return to their families and communities after spending far too much time behind bars. Now, he also said that there'll be more forthcoming action before he leaves office on Monday. Again, his tenure ends. Families Against Mandatory Minimums, Dr. Shaniva McReynolds. Doc, glad to have you here. So first and foremost, have they released the names of a number of women who were in who have been incarcerated? And so do we know who these 2,500 folks are as of yet?
First, let me thank you, Roland, for having me on tonight. And absolutely, the White House did go live with that list. It's on whitehouse.gov. There are 2,490 names listed there.
2,490 names. Are there any names that these 2,500 individuals? The reason I say that, when I was at at one of the White House Christmas parties, there were a number of sisters who were protesting outside of the White House, trying to bring attention to a and 90 names. Are there any names that have been folks have really been waiting on, who've been in there for a very long time? Can you just shed light on who some of these folks are?
Yeah, so FAM has been a thought partner in this work for a very long time. We've been advocating for the President Biden to exercise his clemency powers for people sentenced under crack and powder cocaine disparity, long under extreme sentences, mandatory minimums that no longer can be imposed today, and then the old law. So of course what we did when that list came out, and we're still doing, I mean, almost 2,500 people coming through that list to see the individuals that are on there. We're identifying several that have life sentences, that have again, lengthy sentences that have been imposed for a very long time that they likely wouldn't have received today.
And there are a lot of people who've really been putting in the work, pushing this president to take this action. We had Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley on the show last night. We've had Kimber Smith on the show before.
I belong to a political caucus, and in our bylaws and traditions, we hold in our cabinet our immediate past president. So when a new president is in, the immediate past president is there to kind of share information, resources, things like that. So since we have a new president and Donald Trump, I do want to talk about our former president, the outgoing president, Joe Biden, and his legacy, especially as it pertains to these clemency and pardons. So President Joe Biden has been a vocal advocate for ending mandatory minimum sentences for nonviolent offenses. During his presidency, he commuted the sentences of nearly 2,500 individuals convicted of nonviolent drug offenses. He pardoned 2,500 people in one day, 1,500 people before then. So this 2,500 is within that combination of numbers for nonviolent drug offenses. Okay. Hello, everyone. Hello, and thank you so much for tuning into Elevation Nation. The guys are maybe joining later tonight, but I have definitely taken the training wheels off, and I'm here hosting Elevation Nation by myself and with you. So thank you all who are joining in. We do want to really focus on elevating the conversation. So we do focus on different aspects of engagement. And we are on a 28-day wellness challenge. So far, AJ has lost like 50 pounds. I have lost 9 pounds, and we're going to continue. Damon has been on a fitness journey and a leader really in wellness. So we're gonna all welcome you. I will put links for the free ebook on the 28-day challenge, but we want to eat clean. We want to be healthy. We want to have our minds right because a lot is going on. So when we talk about physical health, that's diet and exercise. When we talk about mental health, have you checked in on yourself? Do you have a professional team? When we talk about emotional health, how are you relating to other people? Are your relationships satisfying? when we talk about social health, are you civically engaged? Do you know who your representatives are? Do you know what the three branches of government even mean? Do you know how to contact your representatives? When we talk about sexual health, how are you doing sexually? Is your sexual life fulfilling? Have you seen your doctor? What is your doctor saying about how you're functioning sexually? I am starting the show earlier because we want to talk about financial health. And I personally am an EYL earner, and I need to be able to tune in to Market Mondays, which happens every Monday at 8. So we're going to be doing Elevation Nation before then, and then we'll go over to watch Market Mondays with Earn Your Leisure. How are you doing intellectually? What books are you reading? Have you read? Do you want to share? So welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. Let's talk about Black History Month. Black History Month is still happening. We don't care what other people have to say about it. We are here to center the contributions of Black people in this country. And one thing I really want to also focus in on is the global Black presence. I don't know about you, but I, for one, have been someone who has gotten quite the education on the global Black presence. And what I'm going to do for the month of February is a series called Black is Black is Black is Black. Because as an African American, I have experienced really thinking that the Blackness is centered on being African American. But I now come to a better understanding where Blackness is global. And we are a part of global Blackness. So we're going to have people from different parts of the diaspora talk about their experience being Black and being in America, because we have people from the Dominican Republic who are Black. They identify as Black. We have people from other parts of the Caribbean, from parts of Central and South America that identify as Black. We have Black Canadians. So we need to hear from them, because God knows we're going to need each other. We're going to need each other going forward. The last clip that I showed was a clip of President Joe Biden's pardons. And the reason I want to focus on President Joe Biden's pardons before I get to President Donald Trump's pardons is because President Joe Biden was one of the legislators, as when he was a senator, that was responsible for the 1994 crime bill. And the 1994 crime bill had great things in it, like the Violence Against Women Act, but it also had some mandatory minimum sentencing laws that disproportionately negatively affected Black Americans. So, what the president tried to do very late in his term was pardon people that were caught up in mass incarceration. And the reason why this is so important is because when you realize that you've made a mistake, one of the signs of integrity is really trying to rectify that. President Joe Biden has given the most pardons in presidential history ever, over 8,000 pardons. And 6,500 of those pardons were related to non-violent marijuana convictions. Why is this important? Because during the mandatory minimum sentencing, a lot, thousands and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that were incarcerated were related to marijuana, which is now legal. And another thing that the doctor, one of the CEO of Families Against Mandatory Minimums, just said is that a lot of these sentences that were legal back in the 90s are illegal today. They wouldn't stand today because we have learned from mass incarceration that these sentences disproportionately affected Black Americans and Brown Americans, and that they are really unfair and discriminatory. So since the 90s and the early 2000s, the 2010s, and now in the 2020s, President Biden was trying to make amends, if you will, by pardoning 6,500 people. Total over 8,000 people, but 6,500 that were affected in this mandatory minimum that were related to nonviolent marijuana convictions. We also know that statistically, the majority of women that are incarcerated have endured some some form of abuse during childhood, and another large number is imprisoned because of domestic violence incidences, intimate partner violent incidences. When you work in DV, which I was a chief program officer in the nonprofit sector for survivors of domestic violence. And when and I also volunteered at Bedford Hills and Taconic minimum and maximum state penitentiaries for women. When you talk to these women, 80 to 90% of them have been involved in intimate partner violence or childhood trauma. What does that mean? That means that some of these sentences, depending on the legal representation for these women, are acts of self-defense. So when the good doctor, who's the founder of FAM, and I'll put it on my page so you guys could follow up with the Families Against Mandatory Minimums, they're talking about women a lot of times who were incarcerated because of areas of defending themselves in intimate partner situations. Also, we are talking about people that were heavily sentenced for mandatory minimums from the 1994 Crime Act that President Joe Biden was trying to rectify. So why is this important? This is a stark difference from what we see in President Donald Trump. When President Donald Trump blanketly, like a blanket of pardons for January 6th, that is not the same caliber of people that are incarcerated as were these people that were given what we call football numbers, 20 yards, 30 yards, 40 yards for mandatory minimum sentencing for nonviolent drug offenses. President Biden did not pardon people that were convicted of killing Capitol police officers on January 6th. President Donald Trump did that. So it's very important because a lot of what President Biden did or is trying to do is going to go down as a non-important thing, but we must pay attention to what is going on right in front of our eyes, and we must not erase history. So thank you for indulging me as I showed you that. I also want to go back to the concept that Black is Black is Black is Black, and I want to show a video from a man who identifies as Dominican, and he's talking about how can we possibly come together as a people and not forget the contributions of African Americans for the global presence. Just bear with me, guys. Bear with me. Let's see. Well, before that, let's also talk about the undocumented persons and how MAGA people see them.
How much do you think undocumented immigrants pay into the tax system every year?
Zero.
Nothing.
Probably nothing.
Undocumented, I would guess zero. Why would they pay anything?
My guess is nothing.
Since they're undocumented, $0.
$100. $100. 2022, they paid $96 billion into Social Security and Medicare, just undocumented.
I really don't know what to say about it.
2022, they paid $96 billion into the Social Security Medicare system.
It seems ludicrous that there would be that kind of money coming in.
You are 100% right. Given everything we've heard, it sounds absurd. It sounds insane, just like an alternate reality, right? It runs counter to the entire narrative that we've been getting the past several years.
Who do you? The government?
The undocumented immigrants, they paid into the system. They pay it into the system.
Okay.
So through ITN number.
It's undocumented immigrants?
Undocumented immigrants. They pay Medicare, they pay Social Security. They don't get Social Security.
Right, but they pay into it.
They pay into
See, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
How much do you think undocumented immigrants pay into the tax system every year?
Zero.
Nothing.
Oh, probably nothing.
Undocumented, I would guess zero. And why would they pay anything?
My guess is nothing.
Since they're undocumented, $0.
$100. $100. 2022, they paid $96 billion into Social Security and Medicare, just undocumented.
I really don't know what to say about it.
2022, they paid $96 billion into the Social Security Medicare system.
It seems ludicrous that there would be that kind of money coming in.
You are 100% right. Given everything we've heard, it sounds absurd. It sounds insane, just like an alternate reality, right? It runs counter to the entire narrative that we've been getting the past several years.
Who do you? The government?
The undocumented immigrants, they paid into the system. They pay it into the system.
Okay.
So through ITN number.
It's undocumented immigrants?
Undocumented immigrants. They pay Medicare, they pay Social Security. They don't get Social Security.
Right, but they pay into it.
They pay
See, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. How about that? Were you aware of that? Were you aware that undocumented people in 2022, they paid a total of $96.7 billion in federal, state, and local taxes. This includes $59.4 billion to the federal government. Imagine that. And $37.3 billion to state and local governments. So on average, undocumented immigrants contributed $8,889 per person in taxes annually. Why is this important? Because it's important that we know the facts. So a breakdown of these contributions is $59.4 billion, including $25.7 billion for Social Security and $6.4 billion for Medicare. They cannot access those programs. Undocumented people cannot access those programs, but they pay into those programs. I'm going to repeat. Undocumented people cannot access Social Security and Medicare. We can as citizens, but they pay into it and we benefit. So all of us who are naturalized or citizens born in this country need to understand that we are benefiting from the tax contribution from undocumented people. Let me read on. State and local taxes is $37.3 billion, with 46% from sales and excise taxes. All right, let's talk about sales taxes for a second, because this is how the narrative is spun by people who want to demonize any group of people. That homeowners are the only ones that pay taxes. Homeowners do pay taxes. But guess what? So do renters. Renters pay taxes. You know how? Through our rent. Do you really think, let's say you're a landlord, do you really think when your taxes go up that you're not going to increase people's rent? Do you really think that? That's not how it works. When taxes go up for property owners and they own multi-dwelling properties, who do you think is going to pay that increase? The renters. The renters pay that increase. So homeowners pay tax, renters pay tax, and we also know sales tax and excise taxes. Everybody pays sales tax. You have a cell phone, how much in fees and taxes? Undocumented people buy cell phones. You want to buy a cup from Home Goods? You want to buy a fork to eat on? There's tax on top of that. Undocumented people pay just as much taxes as everybody else. Let me go back to the stats. Property taxes, 31%, $10.4 billion. Because guess what? There are some undocumented people that own property. Come on, guys. Come on. There are undocumented people that are also landlords. So they're paying property taxes also. What else are they paying? Income taxes. Those that are on work visas, those that are doing different things and they're able to, somehow work here, they are paying income tax. Guess how much? 7 billion. Okay. And this was 2 years ago when we were still kind of semi um, uh, remote. So, the impact of work authorization. So, if an undocumented immigrant were granted work authorization, let's talk about this. Their tax contributions can increase by 40.2 billion annually, reaching a total of 136.9 billion with a B. With a B. So, when you see a sign that says don't no legal benefits for illegals, it's propaganda. It is propaganda. Okay, so when we talk about that intellectual stimulation, intellectual health, make sure we're doing just a little bit of research before we repeat some of this misinformation. State level contributions in states like California, 8.5 billion undocumented people. Texas, 4.9 billion. New York, 3.1 billion are among the largest beneficiaries of these tax payments. Despite their exclusion, this is undocumented people, from many public benefits, undocumented immigrants play a vital role in funding essential programs and services through their tax contributions. So, what do you guys think about that? Any comments on like how what do you think is going on with that? Have we been sold a bill of goods? I would say yeah. And I think a lot of MAGA people are going to learn that they've been sold a bill of goods too. That they've been sold a bill of goods also. So that's what I wanted to share about undocumented people. I also want to talk about this dismantling of government. Elon Musk has not been approved by any authority except for maybe the president. The problem with this is that Congress, people that we elect, represent us. The president has been elected. There is an electoral college. So we know it's not one person, one vote. The smaller states, I'm in New York, so we have a certain number of electoral votes. But the smaller states have been set up, even though they're the minority and contribute less than New York and California. There has been a system of an electoral college that's put in place. So they have equal standing with New York or California in a way, even though we're bigger and we contribute more. Why am I saying that? Why am I saying that? When we elect members to Congress, whether it's the Senate or the House of Representatives, it is one person, one vote. That is why it is so important that Congress, that is in charge of our money and funding, is a check for an overarching executive office, which is what we're experiencing right now. The president is overreaching. He's overreaching. He does have jurisdiction over the federal offices. So he does have jurisdiction over federal agencies, but the money has to be approved and appropriated by Congress. All of this is going to come into question legally in court because that is the checks and balance system. So to have an Elon Musk go in and just say, we're going to cut programs, that is unconstitutional. Do you hear me? Congress is the body of government that says how money is allocated. So when I watched members of the House of Representatives not be able to access the Department of Education earlier this week, that is a cause for alarm. that is a cause for alarm for all of us. We should all be very, very, very concerned that the people that we elected to represent us are not granted access into a federal building. That is a big, 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 huge problem. What do we do about that? Everyone has to go on house.gov and look up who your representative is in the House. My representative is Mike Lawler, Congressman Mike Lawler. He will be getting a call from me. He should be getting a call from you if he's your representative. Next door to me in Congressional District 16 is George Latimer. He should be getting a call from you. And you should ask him, how is this happening when Congress allocates funding? How is Elon Musk, who was not elected by anyone and who does not hold any approval by our Congress, how does he have access to our treasury? So thank goodness this is being argued in the courts, but we, the people, should also call and make your voices heard. I am going to be posting every day that we should call. You should know that you have the authority and the ability to call and ask questions of your congressional representatives. I also want to encourage everyone to pay attention when you see remnants of World War II and Nazism, or the guy with the small mustache. When you see familiarity from any of these, to also really take note.
That would create a board to purge generals.
June 30th, 1934, Hitler would embark on a multi-day campaign in which he would purge Yahtzee leadership of people he deemed too powerful or opponents of his. This would be called the Night of the Long Knives. He did this so that he could ensure there would be no checks and balances of him as he tried to enact the more extreme parts of his agenda. By July 3rd, hundreds of Yahtzee leaders would be dead or fleeing for their lives. I hate knowing history right now.
That would.
Okay, so what is the Night of the Long Knives? Let's go into history. The purge of Nazi leadership, the Night of the Long Knives, and that's Knives, okay?
Socialist German Workers' Party, also known as the Nazis.
Hitler's ascent was not unchallenged. Within his own party, rivalries and power struggles brewed. The most significant of these tensions lay between Hitler and the Sturmabteilung, also known as the SA, led by Ernst Röhm. The SA grew rapidly, reaching around 3 million members by the early 1930s. With their paramilitary force, they intimidated opponents and demonstrated Nazi strength. But by around 1934, their power had become a threat to Hitler's control.
Ernst Röhm, a close ally of Hitler, sought to merge the SA with the German military under his command. This ambition alarmed Hitler and other Nazi leaders, who feared Röhm's influence and the SA's growing power.
Eines aber ist klar: die Arbeit des Wiederaufbaus unseres Volkes und dadurch die Arbeit unseres Volkes selbst ist nur möglich, wenn das deutsche Volk in innerer Ruhe, Ordnung und Disziplin seiner Führung folgt und vor allem, wenn es seiner Führung vertraut. Denn nur das Vertrauen und der Glaube an einen neuen Staat haben es ermöglicht, die großen Aufgaben in Angriff zu nehmen und zu lösen, die uns die früheren Zeiten gestellt hatten.
The SA became unpopular with the German population because of the lawless violence that they did, while Hitler positioned himself as the champion of law and order.
Denn jede tatsächliche Unterlage fehlt.
Does this sound familiar? Does this sound familiar? So, to put complete trust in one leader, and the people, they didn't like the violence, they didn't like the lawlessness, but there was a lot of propaganda, there was a lot of messaging, and we're seeing it today. The Super Bowl last night, the president was there. He pointed to Taylor Swift getting booed, but he actually was booed also. So we saw this rise with this leader, and he said he was the law and order, even though there was lawlessness and violence going on. So I need people to start making this connection. I'm going to play the young ladies, the influencers clip again, because what she's saying is there was an order to really eliminate any political opposition. So we are seeing now that we're being set up. We're being set up to be tolerant of lawless violence. We've seen it overseas with all of the terrible things that are happening overseas to other people, and we've been a bit desensitized to that violence. There's not a lot of anti-war protests anymore, and the anti-war protests that are going on are in specific areas of the world, and we as Americans, believe it or not, are paying to annihilate other populations. So if we have a tolerance for that, that is a test to see how much more will we tolerate. Just like in the 30s, there were little tests. How much will these people tolerate? So let's continue watching.
Sie sollte das deutsche Volk gegen den Versuch einer neuen Vergiftung immunisieren. Gleichzeitig damit aber gab ich auch an einzelne der Parteidienststellen den Befehl, den immer wieder auftauchenden Gerüchten einer neuen Revolution nachzugehen und wenn möglich die Quellen dieser Gerüchte aufzufinden.
The German military, the Reichswehr, saw the SA as undisciplined thugs and opposed Rome's plans. Hitler needed the support of the military to solidify his power and pursue his future ambitions. Something had to be done.
Es ergab sich, dass in den Reihen einiger höherer SA-Führer Tendenzen auftraten, die zu ernstesten Bedenken Anlass geben mussten.
In June 1934, Hitler, along with Heinrich Himmler and Hermann Göring, devised a plan to eliminate the SA's leadership and other political adversaries. This plan would be executed under the guise of a national emergency.
Es konnte vom Monat Mai ab keinen Zweifel mehr geben, dass Stabschef Röhm sich mit ehrgeizigen Plänen beschäftigte, die im Falle ihrer Verwirklichung nur zu schwersten Erschütterungen führen konnten.
On the night of June 30th, 1934, Hitler flew to Badweise, where Rome and other SA leaders were staying. And upon arrival in the early hours of July 1st, Hitler, with a gun drawn, walked directly into Rome's room. And then, in a dramatic confrontation, he held Röhm at gunpoint, accusing him of treason. Röhm was immediately arrested, and within hours, the purge began. Just 2 days later, Röhm was given a pistol and a chance to commit suicide. But Röhm, he refused. And when he refused, he was executed by 2 SS officers, effectively eliminating one of Hitler's potential rivals. Over the next 2 days, the SS, under Hitler's command, carried out a series of arrests and executions. The SA leadership, political rivals, and even former allies deemed threats to Hitler, and they were targeted.
One of the notable victims was Gregor Strasser, a former Nazi leader who had fallen out with Hitler. General Kurt von Schleicher, a former chancellor, and his wife were also killed in the purge. The purge, known as the Night of the Long Knives, saw the deaths of at least 85 people, though some estimates suggest the number could be much higher. Hitler justified the killings as a necessary action to prevent a coup and maintain order.
Ich habe den Befehl gegeben, die Hauptschuldigen an diesem Verrat zu erschießen, und ich gab weiter den Befehl, die Geschwüre unserer inneren Sonnenvergiftung und der Vergiftung des Auslandes auszubrennen, bis auf das rohe Fleisch. Und weiter gab ich den Befehl, bei jedem Versuch des Widerstandes der Meuterer gegen ihre Verhaftung, diese sofort mit der Waffe niederzumachen.
The aftermath of the purge saw the SA's power drastically reduce. The SS, loyal to Hitler and Himmler, became the dominant force in Nazi Germany. The military, relieved of the SA threat now, they pledged their loyalty to Hitler.
The Night of the Long Knives was a turning point. It solidified Hitler's control over the Nazi Party and the German state, paving the way for the totalitarian regime that would lead the world into the horrors of World War II.
The Night of the Long Knives was a purge of power and a prelude to the atrocities that would follow before and during World War II.
That would create a board to purge generals.
June 30th, 1934, Hitler would embark on a multi-day campaign in which he would purge Nazi leadership of people he deemed too powerful or opponents of his. This would be called the Night of the Long Knives. He did this so that he could ensure there would be no checks and balances of him as he tried to enact the more extreme parts of his agenda. By July 3rd, hundreds of Nazi leaders would be dead or fleeing for their lives. I hate knowing history right now.
That would create a board to...
Okay, so that's our show for tonight. But listen, this is what I want you to remember. Checks and balances. The president does not have absolute authority. We have founding fathers that created checks and balances. Congress, who we elected, who represents us. When you go to the House of Representatives, they say this is the people's house because each representative represents a certain number of Americans, okay? The Senate, those are our elected representatives. One person, one vote. They are supposed to check the presidential authority, funding, the budget, wars. This should not happen without Congress. We have seen presidents overstep. Now it is crucial that our elected officials are able to check the other branches of government. So call. We are more. The people are more. Most of the people did not vote for either candidate, honestly, because about 39% or 36% of us didn't even vote. So President Trump won, but a lot of people did not participate. We need everyone to participate. We know history has a way of repeating itself, especially if they ban books and don't tell the truth. We are at that stage right now. So anyway, peace and love to everybody. I want you to remember we're taking care of our mental, emotional, and physical health. We're taking care of one another and we are leading with love. And please join us next week, 6 o'clock, Elevation Nation. Love you.
This new year, Black Westchester and Vita Health Nutrition are joining forces to revolutionize your wellness journey. 2025 isn't just another year, it's your year to thrive. We're making health and wellness the new black, and everyone's invited to join the movement. Vita Health Nutrition's premium collection features powerful immune support supplements, natural energy boosters, advanced nutritional formulas, wellness essentials for the whole family. New Year special offer, get an exclusive 30% off all Vita Health products. Use code BW30, join the movement. Visit blackwestchester.com for community updates. Shop vitahealthnutrition.us. Follow both brands on social media for daily inspiration. Let's make 2025 our healthiest year yet. Black Westchester and Vita Health Nutrition, empowering our community, one healthy choice at a time. Remember, your health is your wealth. Start 2025 strong with Vita Health Nutrition and Black Westchester.
From the streets of the 914 to the pinnacle of journalism, A.J. Woodson's journey is legendary. As a founding member of hip-hop legendary group JVC Force, he lived hip-hop. Now, as editor-in-chief of Black Westchester magazine, experience his groundbreaking trilogy, We Got Our Own Thing, the untold story of hip-hop from Westchester County. Black Westchester celebrates black women. Black Westchester, the origin story, the raw, unfiltered memoir of how faith and determination created a voice for the voiceless. 3 books, one incredible journey. From hip-hop pioneer to community voice, A.J. Woodson's stories need to be on your shelf. All books available on Amazon or contact Black Westchester magazine for your copy.
The best you will find. Living in CI, who the hell am I? AJ Rock the juice, I get fly. Cool with the riffing guy, keep a handle. Cause if you don't, I'll wax it down like a candle.
From the streets of the 914, don't miss Damon K. Jones's revolutionary approach to total wellness. His complete wellness collection, 4 transformative books that have changed thousands of lives. Drawing from years of expertise, Damon guides you through emotional eating, clean living, and the proven 6 pillars of lasting health. Experience his 28-day challenge, which helps people nationwide discover their best selves. Or his groundbreaking book, The Empowering Benefits of Detoxing, Cleansing, and Eating Clean, will help you re-energize and refocus on your health, wellness, and mental clarity. Join the wellness revolution. Get this life-changing collection for only $65. Go to DamonKJones.com for this special offer, and let's make health and wellness the new black. Freedom, social connection, sexual wellness, and intellectual growth. This is more than self-help. It's self-elevation. Watch Elevation Nation with Tasha Young, exclusively on Black Westchester magazine. The news from the black point of view. Your journey to wholeness starts now. Are you ready to transform your life from the inside out? Join Tasha